Jai Gurudev, Day 7, Women's Right to do Gayatri Sadhana. Women have always been accorded high respect in the Indian culture. They have been regarded more pious than men. They are often addressed as Devis. Girls are named as Shanti Devi, Ganga Devi, Daya Devi. The word Devi is thus often annexed to their names. Girls are adorned not by degree, etc., but by their inherent God given feminine virtues. God and great personalities are often known through the names of their wives. In various names like Sita Ram, Radhesham, Gauri Shankar, Lakshmi Narayan, Uma Mahesh, Maya Brahma, Savitri, Satyavan women have been given precedence over men. All thoughtful and wise persons have regarded women more prominent in respect of virtues like chastity, loyalty, mercy, compassion, service, sympathy, love, affection, generosity, and devotion. Women have, in general, been given prominence and respect in all religions and spiritual pursuits. If one goes through the Vedas, it will appear that not only rishis but several wives of rishis were also seers to whom Vedic hymns were revealed. How could the great God, who is kind-hearted, just and impartial, discriminate between man and woman who are his own children? The rishi of the mantras of Rig Ved is a female named Surya Savitri. In Nirukt, a rishi has been defined as one who is a seer of mantras, who understands the secret behind them and transmit it to others. Rishi Darshanath Stoman Dadarshiti Rishyo Mantra Drashtatha. In 24th chapter of Vrihad Devta, a list of women rishis in Rig Veda have been given, which includes the name of Kosha, Godha, Apala, Upanishad, Juhu, Aditi, Indrani, Urvashi, Yami, Saraswati, Surya, Savitri as being Brahmavadinis. The seers of Rig Veda, Sukta, were women. There is ample evidence which proves that, like males, females used to perform yajna. They were expert in yajna technique and religious learning. Several women used to guide their husbands in the respect. Ida had told Manu that she would do Avadham on fire in such a way that he would get worldly riches, pleasures and respect and attain heaven. In Shatpad Brahman, Yajnavalkya's wife, Maitriya, has been called Brahmavadini, which means Brahmavadanshil. Brahma means Ved and Brahmavadinishil means one who gives discourses on Veda. Adi Shankaracharya had to enter into a spiritual debate with Bharati Devi. Her exposition of the scriptures was so marvelous that even eminent scholars were wonderstruck. Shankaracharya was unable to answer her profound questions and had to seek 1 month time to respond. In Shankar Digvijaya, it is written that Bharati Devi was well versed in all the Vedas and other scriptures and branches of knowledge. None excelled her in knowledge. How can a ban now be imposed on study of scriptures by women? If there had been such a restriction in the ancient time, how could there have been women who could have philosophical debates with persons like Yajnavalkya, Shankaracharya, etc.? In fact, in those days, all men and women had equal opportunities of studying the Vedas. In Shatpath, there are directions for women who pronounce mantras of Yajurveda. Same is the case with mantras of Titriya Samhita. Ashvalayan Graha Sutra provides that in the absence of Yajman, his wife, son or unmarried daughter could perform yajna. Kathak Grahi Sutra and Logashi Graha Sutra propound study and chanting of Ved mantras and performings of Vedic Karmkand by women. In Parashar Graha Sutra, the bride herself chants mantras of the Laja home at the time of marriage. She also chants Yajurved mantras while seeing the sun. While doing Samajan at the marriage, both the bride and the groom are required to chant Rig Ved mantras. In Tandya Brahman, women have been directed to play on veena and sing mantra of some Veda in the battle. The other mantras direct to keep a picture on their heads and take a round singing Ved mantras. In Etriya, there is a story about Kumari Gandharva who proves that unmarried girls were authorized to study Vedas and perform yajna. In Katyanan's Shraut Sutras, there are clear directions about chanting by women of particular Ved mantra. Lata Yayan Sutra provides the wife should sing mantras of Samveda with rhythm. Gayatri sadhana by women in ancient times. In ancient days, Gargi, Maitreyi, Anasuya, Vrinda, Mandodari, Tara, Draupadi, Damayanti, Apala, Ushija, Savitri, Vaishalini, Vindyula, Gandhari, Anjani, Sita, Parvati, Shaivya, Sukanya were highly learned and spiritually illumined women who were worshippers of Gayatri. They had elevated their souls and attained yoga siddhis by Gayatri sadhana. Though they lived family lives, they had achieved spiritual eminence by worshipping Gayatri. It is hardly possible to narrate in this small book details of the glorious lives lived and siddhis achieved by great women. Those who have studied ancient Indian history and scriptures know it well that all the aforesaid women were unparalleled shining stars in their own right in the exemplifying virtues like learning, courage, energy, valor, righteousness, devotion, spiritual awakening. They had displayed awe-inspiring excellence in their spiritual and mental attainments. In the ancient days, Savitri performed Gayatri Japa for a year and acquired powers by which she could stand up to even god of death, Yamraj, and revive her dead husband. It was Damayanti's tap which burnt the hunter to ashes when he tried to molest her. Gandhari, who had blindfolded her eyes and thus performed great tap, had developed such a power in her vision that by mere glance Duryodhan's body became invulnerable except the portion around his loins which he had covered for the sake of modesty, which remained vulnerable. Bhim struck Duryodhan on this part and killed him. Anasuya's tap turned Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh into small children. The strength of the tap of a chaste lady, Shantili, had stopped the chariot of the sun. Sukanya's tap transformed the old and worn-out body of Chyavan Rishi into youthfulness. The history of tap performed by women is no way inferior to that done by men. It is obvious that whether it is men or women, the high way of tap for all is Gayatri sadhana. Even in present times, I am well acquainted with several women who are deeply immersed in Gayatri sadhana and who have attained material and spiritual happiness and peace. Why should there be restriction on women? The meaning of Gayatri worship is to regard God as mother and sit in her lap. Of all the relations in the world, the relationship of the mother and child is most loving and intimate. With whatever devotion we turn to God, He responds according to our faith. When the devotee visualizes God in the form of mother and sits in her lap, he gets affectionate response accordingly. The qualities of love, affection, compassion, tenderness, generosity are by nature found in greater degree in women than in men. Rishis have therefore been worshipping God in the form of mother since days immemorial, and they have directed every person having faith in religion to adopt this easy and safe path of sadhana. Gayatri worship is supposed to be the daily religious routine of every Indian. Whatever may be the system of Sandhya Vandan, Gayatri is an essential element in it. One may or may not perform Gayatri sadhana for a specific worldly or spiritual purpose, but he is guilty of neglecting his religious duties if he does not perform daily routine of sadhana. Daughter and son both are beloved children of the mother. Man and woman are equally dear to God. No impartial and just parents discriminate between their children on the grounds of sex. God has provided facilities for performance of religious duties and sadhana for self-realization both to man and woman. This is but appropriate on the grounds of equality, justice, and impartiality, and is proved by logic as well. This simple truth hardly calls for debate and dispute. It is gratifying to note that in the recent past, wise and far-sighted eminent persons, men have been trying to abolish evil customs of the dark Middle Ages. They have started realizing that our nation will not be able to regain its ancient glory so long as women are not liberated from the iron grip of narrow-mindedness in which they have been encased since the Middle Ages. Since women constitute half of our population, we will be able to make all-round progress only by restoring them to the rightful position of dignity which they enjoyed in the golden era of hoary past. The blind adherence to orthodoxy, which considers evil traditions and conventions prevalent since Middle Ages, as religion is bound to oppose enlightened reforms and tooth and nail, but it has to be faced boldly by such reformist movements. Decision by Malviya ji. There have been considerable discussions among the scholars of Kashi on the controversy whether women have a right to chant Ved mantras. A girl student named Kumari Kalyani wanted to seek admission to a course in which Vedas were taught in Banaras Hindu University. The authorities refused to grant admission according to the prevalent belief on the ground that a woman, according to Shastras, had no right to chant Ved mantras. This controversy continued for a very long time. A paper, Sarvadeshik, published several articles in support of the right of women to study Vedas, while the other paper, Siddhanta, took an opposite view. A deputation of Arya Samajists met university authorities and there was a prolonged discussion on this subject. Ultimately, the university appointed a committee under the chairman of Mahamana Madan Mohan Malviya, in which several Vedic scholars were included. The committee, after a thorough study of Shastras, gave a finding that women have the same right as men in respect of Vedas. Malviya ji, who was considered as the standard bearer of Sanatan Dharma, announced this decision of the committee on 22nd August 1946. Kumari Kalyani was accordingly admitted to the course in which Vedas were taught, and it was finally decided that henceforth women would have the right to study Vedas and there would be no discrimination on grounds of sex. Nobody can say that Malviya ji and his learned colleagues could be hostile to the tenets of Sanatan Dharma. Their devotion to religion is well known. What can be said about the wisdom of those persons who still persist in saying that women have no right to worship Gayatri when this controversy has been settled once for all by the eminent persons like Malviya ji? The name of several learned women of ancient times are still famous. References are found in Vedas about several women rishis being authors of several Ved mantras. It is therefore the duty of all social reformers to follow in this respect the decision given by Malviya ji, who has been a rishi of the present age.